I feel like our generation where we are hasn't really had to sweat too much. So it's like a
Yeah.
big change, right? Like my parents came here from Poland, which was socialistic at the time, and just, didn't have much going there and escaped it basically with nothing to come to America and start over. That wasn't easy. My father was already doctor there and had to come into New York and be a janitor until he could, pass his boards and everything and work again. So that wasn't easy for him, but he said it was the best decision for the long run. He could have been like, yeah, it's kind of comfortable. It's not the greatest situation, right? They're kind of controlling my whole life here. But he said, I wanted freedom and I'll sacrifice for that. And I think you're going to have to embrace that a little bit. Some people will, like moving, right? Like you said, you're thinking about moving like a lot of people are. And maybe that's to a place you know nobody and your family's all here. But that may be the sacrifice to show you something better down the road in the long term. So I do agree with you. I think it'll get better in the long term. Got to stay positive. I don't think it's the end of the world just yet.
And I write about that. I write about hope being essential. It's essential not only for your own physical well-being and mental well-being, but it's essential because when you lose hope, you're no longer striving for something, and you're no longer having these important conversations. And you really are quite powerful. Individuals are really powerful to influence what happens at their kids' schools, to influence. I mean, you pick up and leave New York City and move somewhere else and take your money, you're not going to those restaurants anymore. You're not supporting that system. So that's just a reality. And, I think it is going to take, the reality is that people are going to have to realize that if there are politicians or there are, places where you feel that you can't instill, values in your child, or you can't live in a way that feels comfortable for you, then it will require those challenging decisions. Like we're not making this decision, about Texas lightly. I love New York City. Like I grew up here. This is my home, but it's not recognizable. And your breaking point may not be you. Interestingly, my breaking point was, even though I have a medical exemption and I have this kind of unique situation of dipping into a medical exemption and natural immunity, my breaking point was actually when they came for the nurses and the doctors who went through COVID the entire time and treated all of these people, got sick, got better, have this immunity, and are getting fired. That enraged me. Because these are people who were fighting and struggling to protect us when I had the luxury of sitting home and working from home because I was scared, frankly. They were out there doing that tough work, and now they're being punished. That's not acceptable to me. So I'm not really truthfully fired up. I'm fired up for my child, and I'm fired up for like these people that were working, firemen and police officers and essential workers that were out there doing the hard work that afforded me the opportunity to live in my fear for a minute and hibernate, frankly, when I shouldn't have been, but I did nonetheless. And that's why I fight. So, and think about that. Think about the ripple effect of people just standing up for what they believe in. Look at what happened with the airlines. I mean, you kind of have to look around and say, what kind of world do I want for not just, if you don't have kids, then what about nieces, nephews, future generations? What about for yourself, your brother, your sister, whoever it may be? What do you want that to look like? And for you, what is worth fighting for? For me, freedom is worth fighting for. It's worth sitting out a little bit and saying, I'm going to speak out and see what happens here. And I'm going to just pivot. I'm not going to go away. I'm just going to pivot. And work is work. I know you probably feel like, what you're doing is actually incredible. You're actually healing and saving people. But for me, I'm like, work is a part of my life. But there are all these other parts here that will be compromised if I don't, follow my gut on this one. So people need to trust themselves. And that's why I wrote this too. I was like, my baby, I was like, trust yourself, fight for what you believe in. I want my kid to be able to stand up. If he disagrees, if he's 20 years old and we're having a debate, I want him to tell me what he feels. Disagree with mama. Tell me why. If I have given you that courage to be like, Mom, I disagree, and here's why. Amazing. I'm a good parent. Yeah. I have raised a strong, bold, passionate child. Amen.
Absolutely.
He agrees with me. Great. If he doesn't, but still has the courage of his own convictions, amazing.